So, you know that feeling you get when you finally lock your front door for the night? That deep, satisfying click of the deadbolt sliding into place. For me, that wasn't just a sound, it was a ritual. It was the closing parenthesis on another long day in the city. I lived on the 14th floor of a new-ish high-rise in downtown Chicago, one of those places with a uniformed guy at the front desk and a key fob you had to swipe just to call the elevator. It was my fortress, my sanctuary. My name is Anna, I was 25, and my life was, for lack of a better word, completely and utterly normal. My apartment was my pride and joy. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. I had these big, floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over a canyon of steel and glass. At night, the city would light up, and it felt like living inside a postcard. I had my little routine down to a science. Wake up, coffee, commute on the L train, work my 9-to-5 job in marketing, commute back, maybe hit the gym in the building, make dinner, watch something mindless on Netflix, and then, click. The deadbolt, safety. My social life was just as structured. Weekends were for brunch with my two best friends, Chloe and Jessica. We were that classic trio you see in movies, a little support system built on lattes and shared anxieties. And then there was my online life, my Instagram. It was my scrapbook, sunsets from a vacation in Mexico, a perfectly swirled scoop of gelato from a trip to New York, a picture of my cat, Mittens, asleep in a sunbeam. It was a curated, happy version of my life, a way to connect with friends from college and share the good parts. It felt safe, too. I mean, it was my page, under my control. I chose what to share, who to follow. It was an extension of my safe little world. Looking back now, the naivety is almost suffocating. This all started on a Tuesday. I remember because it was Taco Tuesday, and I was debating whether to order in or just make a sandwich. I was sitting on my gray sectional couch, Mittens purring on my lap, scrolling idly through my phone. I was looking at my own Instagram profile, smiling at a picture from last summer. It was me and Chloe, grinning, holding up margaritas the size of our heads. A good memory. Then my phone buzzed with a text. It was Chloe. The message just said, "Hey, new profile?" Underneath it was a screenshot. I tapped on it, my brow furrowed in confusion. The screenshot was of an Instagram profile page. The profile picture was the exact same one I was using, a selfie from a hike we'd taken in the fall, with the golden leaves framing my face. The name was my name, Anna Miller. The bio was blank. The post count, follower count, and following count were all 0. And there was a little padlock icon next to the name. The account was private. I stared at it for a solid 10 seconds, my brain just not processing it. It was like seeing a reflection of yourself where there shouldn't be a mirror. A flicker of something, not fear, more like a weird, prickly annoyance, ran down my spine. I texted back, "What? No, that's not me. Where'd you find this?" Her reply came instantly. "It followed me just now. I thought it was weird you'd make a new one." My first thought wasn't that I was being targeted. My first thought was that this was some kind of new, sophisticated spam bot. You know the kind. They scrape your info and create a fake account to try and trick your friends into some crypto scam or by sending them a link to a virus. It happened all the time. It was the digital equivalent of junk mail. Annoying, but ultimately harmless. "It's just a scammer, Chloe. Just block it," I replied, trying to sound casual, as if I dealt with this every day. "Weird," she wrote back. "It's private, though. Usually they're open so they can message people." She had a point. That was strange. Scammers usually wanted to be as visible as possible. A private account couldn't do anything. It couldn't send messages to people who didn't follow it back. It couldn't post things for the world to see. It was just sitting there. A locked, empty copy of me. "Weird," I said out loud to the empty apartment. Mittens just purred, oblivious. I told Chloe not to worry about it and that I'd report it. I navigated to the profile she'd sent me. There it was again, my face, my name. It felt violating, like someone had stolen a piece of my mail. I felt a surge of indignation. How dare they? I clicked the 3 little dots in the top right corner. Report account. It's pretending to be someone else. Me. The app prompted me with a few more questions, which I answered mechanically. The whole process took less than a minute. As soon as I hit submit, a little confirmation popped up, saying they would review my report. A sense of satisfaction washed over me. Problem solved. I'd done my civic duty for the internet. I put my phone down, the taco debate won by the forces of laziness. I opened an app and ordered a carnitas burrito. By the time the food arrived 20 minutes later, the fake account was already completely forgotten, relegated to the mental trash bin alongside that email from a Nigerian prince and the phone call about my car's extended warranty. It was a non-event. A blip. The next few days were perfectly normal. Work was busy, I talked to my mom on the phone, I planned another brunch with the girls for the upcoming weekend. The tiny, strange incident of the fake profile never even crossed my mind. It was a solved problem, a checked box. The digital world continued to spin, and my safe, comfortable life hummed along with it. The deadbolt on my door clicked into place each night. The key fob beeped its reassuring little song. All was well. It was Friday evening when I saw the email. I was clearing out my inbox, deleting a mountain of promotional junk. 50% off this, flash sale on that. And then I saw the subject line, an update on your report. It was from Instagram. I clicked on it, expecting a confirmation that the fraudulent account had been deleted. That's usually what happened. I'd reported spam accounts before, and they were always quickly removed. But that's not what the email said. My eyes scanned the bland, corporate text. It was a boilerplate message, cold and impersonal. Hi Anna Miller, thank you for taking the time to report this. We reviewed the profile you reported for impersonating you. Because the profile is not in violation of our community standards, we were unable to take it down. I read it again, and a third time. My blood went cold. Not in violation? How could an account with my exact name and my exact picture, reported by me, not be a violation? It made no sense. It was the very definition of impersonation. I felt a new kind of confusion, one that was darker and heavier than the mild annoyance I'd felt a few days before. The system had failed. The simple, reliable tool I'd used to clean up this tiny mess hadn't worked. I frantically reopened the app and searched for the username. It was still there, Anna Miller, the same profile picture, the same padlock icon. It was still sitting there in the dark, private and silent, a perfect digital copy of me that the entire world, and even the platform it was on, had decided was perfectly fine. For the first time, I felt a genuine tremor of fear. It wasn't just a scammer anymore. A scammer would have been caught. A scammer would have broken the rules. This was something else, something that knew how to play by the rules, how to exist in a gray area where it couldn't be touched. The account was still private. It hadn't done anything. It hadn't posted. It hadn't followed anyone else. It was just there, waiting, and I had absolutely no idea what it was waiting for. That night, for the first time in a long time, the sound of the deadbolt clicking into place didn't feel so satisfying. It felt a little desperate. It felt like I was trying to lock something out that might already be inside. You try to forget. You really do. The human brain is great at that, at taking something sharp and unsettling and wrapping it in layers of normalcy until the edges are dull. The email from Instagram, the one that basically said, "Sorry, this perfect copy of you doesn't violate our rules," felt like a glitch in the matrix. It was wrong, it was nonsensical, but what could I do? I couldn't call the CEO. I couldn't file an appeal. So I did what most people do when faced with a small, persistent, unsolvable problem. I tried to ignore it. For the next 2 days, it almost worked. Life just sort of takes over. Deadlines at work don't wait because you have a digital doppelganger. The laundry doesn't do itself. Mittens still needs to be fed. The city still rumbles on outside my 14th floor window. The fake profile was like a tiny splinter in my mind. Most of the time, I didn't feel it. But then I'd be doing something mundane, like brushing my teeth, and my eyes would drift to my own reflection, and the thought would prick me. There's another one out there. A locked, silent one. I'd shiver and push it away. It was a Wednesday afternoon when the splinter was driven in deeper, right to the bone. I was at my desk, trying to finish up a marketing report, my screen filled with spreadsheets and pie charts. My world was a universe of percentages and projections. Safe. Predictable. My phone, lying face down on the desk, buzzed. It was a text from Chloe. I smiled, thinking she was probably sending me a meme or a plan for the weekend. I flipped it over. The message wasn't a meme. Her words were stark, missing her usual bubbly emojis. "Anna, go look at that fake account. Now, it's public." My stomach dropped. It felt like stepping off a curb I didn't see. I told myself to be calm. Public just meant the lock icon was gone. It was probably just posting spam now, just like I originally thought. Annoying, but not personal. My fingers felt clumsy and thick as I opened the Instagram app. I typed in my own name, Anna Miller. My own profile, the real one, popped up first. And right below it was the other one. The imposter. The padlock was gone, and there was one post. I tapped on it. The blood in my veins turned to ice water. It wasn't a spam link. It wasn't a scam. It was a picture of me. But it was a picture I had never seen before. It was me 2 days ago, Monday morning. I was at the Daily Grind, the little coffee shop I always stop at on my way to work if I'm running late. In the picture, I was sitting alone at one of the small tables by the window, staring into my latte like it held the secrets to the universe. I remember that moment perfectly. I was stressing about a presentation, just trying to get 5 minutes of caffeine-fueled peace before heading into the office. I was wearing my blue coat. My hair was tied up in a messy bun. It was me, unquestionably, but the angle was all wrong. It wasn't a selfie. It wasn't a picture a friend would take from across the table. It was taken from a distance. Through the coffee shop window, from across the street. The image was slightly distorted by the reflection on the glass, giving it this detached, almost clinical feel. Like a researcher observing a specimen in its habitat. A voyeuristic quality that made my skin crawl. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a panicked bird trapped in a cage. My colleagues were chattering around me, the phones were ringing, keyboards were clacking, but all that sound faded into a dull, distant roar. My entire universe had shrunk to the 4-inch screen in my hand. Who took this picture? My first rational thought was to try and debunk it somehow. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe a street-style photographer snapped a picture of a random person in a coffee shop, and this creep just stole it? No, that was me. That was my coat, my profile, my usual order. I zoomed in on the photo, my finger trembling, trying to see a reflection in the window of the shop, a clue, a face, anything. But there was nothing, just the blurry shapes of cars and the building across the street. I clicked on the profile. The bio was still blank, but the description under the photo sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. It was simple, just 3 words, a thoughtful morning. It was the kind of innocuous, vaguely aspirational caption I might have written myself. That's what made it so terrifying. It wasn't just stealing my face, it was stealing my voice, my habits, my life. It was taking a private, unguarded moment and putting it on display for the world. I scrolled through the comments. There were only a few, all from the last hour. Strangers, love this vibe, great shot, so pensive lol. They had no idea. To them, it was just another picture on their feed. To me, it was a threat. It was a declaration. It said, I can see you. I can get close to you. You are not safe. I felt a desperate need for air. I pushed my chair back, mumbled something about a headache to my concerned deskmate, and walked on unsteady legs towards the restroom. I splashed cold water on my face, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My face was pale, my eyes were wide with a fear that was no longer abstract. This wasn't a bot. This wasn't a random scammer in another country. Someone had been physically there, on Monday morning, standing across the street from my coffee shop, pointing a camera at me while I was lost in my own thoughts. Had they followed me from my apartment? Had they followed me to work? Were they watching me right now? I looked out the small, frosted window of the restroom, as if I could spot someone suspicious in the alleyway 17 floors below. The paranoia was immediate and suffocating. I spent the rest of the workday in a fog of pure terror. Every email notification made me jump. Every time someone walked past my desk, the hairs on my arms stood up. I couldn't focus on the spreadsheets anymore. The numbers and charts seemed meaningless. There was a real-world problem now, one that felt far more menacing than a missed quarterly target. The commute home on the L train was torture. I felt like every single person in the crowded car was staring at me. The man reading a newspaper, the woman listening to music, the teenager looking at his phone. Was it one of them? I clutched my purse to my chest like a shield. I got off at my stop and practically ran the 3 blocks to my building, my head on a swivel, scanning every face, every car that drove by. The security guard at the front desk, a friendly guy named Mike whose presence had always felt so reassuring, now seemed like a flimsy defense. He smiled and said, "Have a good night, Anna." I could barely manage a nod. He didn't know. He couldn't protect me from a ghost. Once I was inside my apartment, I did something I hadn't done since I first moved in. I walked to my big, floor-to-ceiling windows, the ones I loved so much, the ones that offered a sparkling view of the city, and I pulled the heavy blackout curtains shut, plunging the room into darkness. The beautiful postcard view suddenly felt like a vulnerability. It felt like I was living in a glass box, and someone was out there, watching the show. I double-checked the deadbolt on my front door. It clicked into place, but the sound offered zero comfort. It felt pathetic, like trying to stop a flood with a paper towel. I didn't eat dinner. I couldn't. I just sat on my couch in the dark, with only the glow of my phone screen illuminating my face. Mittens curled up beside me, purring, a small, warm anchor in a sea of cold fear. I kept the fake profile open, refreshing it every few minutes, my thumb swiping down over and over again. It was a form of self-torture. I was both terrified of what I might see next and completely unable to look away. What would be next? A picture of me at the grocery store? At the gym in my own building? My mind raced, creating a slideshow of horrors. Hours passed. The city outside my drawn curtains quieted down. It must have been after midnight. My eyes were burning from staring at the screen. I was about to give up, to try and force myself to sleep, when the screen refreshed and something new appeared. It wasn't another post. It was a story. A little colored ring appeared around the fake profile picture of my own smiling face. My breath hitched. My heart started that frantic, panicked drumming again. With a hand that felt disconnected from my body, I tapped the circle. The story opened. It was a video. It was only about 5 seconds long, shaky, as if filmed by someone walking. There was no sound, but I recognized it instantly. I would have recognized it anywhere. It was the lobby of my apartment building. The shot panned slowly across the familiar gold and black marble floor. It passed the empty concierge desk, where Mike would be sitting during the day. It lingered for a second on the ridiculously large potted ficus tree by the elevators. The lighting was low, the way it always was late at night. The lobby was completely empty. A silent, waiting space. The video itself was deeply unsettling. It meant the person wasn't just across the street from my coffee shop. They had been inside my building. They had a key fob. They had walked right past the front desk. But it was the little line of white text typed across the bottom of the video that shattered what was left of my sanity. It was a simple, quiet observation. So quiet tonight, my fortress had been breached. The call wasn't coming from outside the house. It was already inside the lobby. And they were observing the quiet, just like I was, 14 floors up, alone in the dark. The deadbolt on my door suddenly felt like it was made of paper. I didn't sleep that night. That's probably not true. I must have, at some point, because I woke up to the gray light of dawn filtering through a crack in my blackout curtains. But it wasn't sleep. It was more like my body just shut down from exhaustion while my mind kept running, replaying that 5-second video of my lobby over and over. So quiet tonight, the words were burned onto the back of my eyelids. Getting out of bed felt like lifting a lead blanket. The first thing I did, before even going to the bathroom, was grab my phone. My thumb hovered over the Instagram icon. A part of me, the logical part, screamed not to look. Just delete the app. Pretend it doesn't exist. But that's not how fear works, is it? It's a hunger. You have to know. You have to see what new monster is waiting for you. Nothing. The account was still there, still public, but there were no new posts. No new stories. Just the silent, mocking video of my lobby. The thought of calling in sick was tempting. I could just crawl back under the covers and disappear. But then what? Sit here, in the apartment that no longer felt safe, jumping at every creak of the floorboards? No, that felt like letting it win. So I did the only thing I could think of. I got up, I took a shower, I put on my work clothes, and I pretended to be a normal person. It's amazing what we can make ourselves do. The human brain is great at that, at taking something sharp and unsettling and wrapping it in layers of normalcy until the edges are dull. Or at least, that's what you tell yourself. The commute was awful. Every person on the L train seemed to be looking at their phone, and I couldn't stop myself from trying to see their screens, trying to see if they were looking at me. The real me or the fake me. The paranoia was a physical thing, a prickling heat on the back of my neck. When I got to the office, everyone was just normal. Mark from accounting was talking about his fantasy football draft. Sarah was complaining about the bad coffee. And I was standing there, smiling and nodding, feeling like an astronaut who had just returned from a terrifying planet that no one else knew existed. The morning dragged on in a blur of emails and spreadsheets. Then, at 11, came the big quarterly review meeting. My boss, Mr. Henderson, loves these meetings. He loves the sound of his own voice, the click of the slideshow remote, the captive audience. I usually just zone out, but today, it was a welcome distraction. For an hour, I could think about market shares and revenue streams instead of a faceless person who had a key fob to my building. I put my phone on silent and laid it face down on the polished mahogany table, as required. My world shrank to the sterile, air-conditioned conference room, and for a while, it almost worked. I was just Anna Miller, marketing associate, a normal person in a normal, boring meeting. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. The screen of my phone, lying dark on the table, lit up. It was a notification. Then, a few seconds later, it lit up again. And again, and again, a steady, silent pulse of light, rhythmic and insistent. Each flash was like a tiny jolt to my nervous system. My legs started twitching under the table. Mr. Henderson was droning on about Q4 projections, but all I could focus on was the silent, frantic flashing on the table. It was like watching a bomb's countdown timer that only I could see. My heart was hammering. It had to be them. What was it this time? Another picture? A video of my front door? The meeting finally ended. People started gathering their things, making small talk. I snatched my phone from the table so fast my hands shook. I didn't even say anything to my colleagues. I just turned and walked quickly out of the room, heading straight for the restroom, my sanctuary of the day before. I locked the stall door behind me and leaned against it, my breath coming in short, sharp bursts. My screen was a mess of notifications. Dozens of them, Instagram comments, direct messages, a slew of texts from my friends. My hands were slick with sweat as I tapped the Instagram icon. The fake profile was at the top of my feed. It had posted again, not just one picture, a whole carousel, 6 of them. I tapped it open. The first photo stole the air from my lungs. It was me. Well, my face. I was sitting at an outdoor table, a glass of red wine in my hand, smiling a dazzling, carefree smile I didn't recognize. Behind me, rolling green hills baked in a golden, late afternoon sun. It looked like a postcard. A beautiful, impossible lie. I swiped to the next photo. Me, laughing, with my head thrown back, standing in front of an elegant, mission-style building with a sign that read, Napa Valley Vineyard Tours. Another swipe, a close-up of a wine glass held against a sunset. My hand, my ring on my finger. Swipe, a picture taken from behind, of me in a fluffy white robe, looking out from a balcony at a breathtaking view of the vineyards. It was a whole life. A perfect, sun-drenched, luxurious getaway. And it was all happening right now, while I was sitting on a toilet in a fluorescent-lit office bathroom in the middle of Chicago, feeling my world crumble. The caption was what really twisted the knife. It was chipper. It was aspirational. It was everything people want to see on their feed. Sometimes you just gotta run away from the deadlines and treat yourself. Hello, Napa. Sunwine hashtag solo trip hashtag self-care hashtag Napa Valley hashtag living my best life. My mind just short-circuited. This was a whole new level of insanity. The coffee shop photo was surveillance. The lobby video was a threat. This was something else entirely. This wasn't just about watching me anymore. This was about replacing me. They were building a better, happier, more exciting version of my life and broadcasting it to everyone I knew. The photos were good, too. Deceptively good. They weren't blurry or obviously fake. My face had been photoshopped onto these scenes with a terrifying skill. Then I made the mistake of reading the comments. They were pouring in. A work colleague. OMG Anna. So jealous. We're all dying over here and you're in Napa? An old college friend. You go girl. You deserve it. But it was the messages from my closest friends that really hurt. A text from Chloe. Seriously? A solo trip to Napa and you don't even text me? Ouch. I see how it is. Winking face. Another one from my friend group chat. A flurry of messages asking why I'd been so secretive, why I didn't invite anyone. It was half joking, but underneath it, I could feel a real sting of exclusion. They felt left out, by a version of me that didn't even exist. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I was being erased. I was being painted as the girl who ditches her friends, who lives a secret, fabulous life without them. I was being isolated, not by force, but by a lie so appealing that everyone was buying it. My fingers flew across the screen. I had to do something. I went to my own, real profile and started typing, my hands trembling so badly I kept making typos. I uploaded a quick, horrible selfie, right there in the bathroom stall. My face was pale, my eyes wide and panicked, the sickly green of the stall wall behind me. Everyone, this is me. Right now, I am in my office in Chicago. I am not in Napa. There is a fake account impersonating me. Please do not interact with it. It is at @AnnaMiller_official. Please report it. This is not a joke. I'm okay, but this is getting really serious. I hit post. It felt like screaming into a hurricane. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a few supportive comments trickled in. OMG Anna, are you okay? And, that's so creepy. Reporting it now. A wave of relief washed over me. Okay, people would see. They would understand. But then, other comments started to appear under my frantic post. Is this part of the joke? Lol, what a weirdly elaborate prank, Anna. Under the fake post, on the picture of me in Napa, someone had commented, my real Anna, this is your I'm at work face? You're a riot. And it got a dozen likes. My blood ran cold. They didn't believe me, or at least, some of them didn't. The imposter's story was better. It was happier, more fun. My reality, the panicked, terrifying one, was just messy. Uncomfortable. People preferred the lie. I felt dizzy, sick to my stomach. I was losing control of my own narrative, of my own life. This person had not only stolen my face, but they were also stealing my credibility. I scrolled numbly back to the fake profile, to the carousel of sun-drenched lies. My eyes scanned the comments again, a form of self-torture. Friends, acquaintances, strangers, all cheering on this ghost who was wearing my skin. I felt a profound sense of loneliness, a feeling that I was completely on my own in this. And that's when I saw it. A new comment posted just a minute ago. The profile picture was one I knew better than my own. It was a photo of me and my boyfriend, Kevin, from last summer, smiling on a beach. My breath caught in my throat. I read his comment. It was posted under the photo of the fake me, the one on the balcony in the white robe, looking out at the vineyards. His words were simple, they were loving, they were meant for me, but they were sent to her. Looks beautiful, have the best time, babe. Just waiting for you to come home. For a few seconds, my whole world was just the glowing screen of my phone. The white robe, the Napa Valley background, and Kevin's comment underneath it. Looks beautiful, have the best time, babe. Just waiting for you to come home. Babe, he called the fake me, the photoshopped liar, babe. My thumb was still hovering over the screen. I couldn't move. The fluorescent hum of the office bathroom seemed to get louder, a high-pitched whine that vibrated in my teeth. My breath was gone. It felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, a deep, hollow ache that spread out into my limbs, making them feel heavy and useless. He believed her. He saw that picture, that lie, and he didn't even question it. He just saw me, happy and far away, and accepted it. I stumbled out of the stall and leaned over the sink, splashing cold water on my face. My reflection was a horror show. Pale, blotchy skin, eyes wide with a terror that looked like madness. This was the real me. The me sitting in a bathroom in Chicago. The me he should have been waiting for. My phone started vibrating in my hand. The screen lit up with his face. Kevin. My heart didn't leap like it usually did. It sank, a cold, heavy stone dropping into the pit of my stomach. I didn't want to answer. I wanted to throw the phone against the tiled wall and watch it shatter. But not answering felt like admitting guilt. It felt like hiding. So, with a hand that shook so badly I almost dropped the phone, I swiped to answer. Hello? My voice was a reedy whisper. Anna? It wasn't his usual voice. There was no warmth in it. It was flat, cold, the voice he used when he was trying very hard not to be angry. Kevin, hi, I said, trying to sound normal and failing completely. Listen, about that post. She just messaged me, he cut me off. The word, she, hung in the air between us. He didn't say, the fake account. He said, she, as if this person was real. Another me. She? What are you talking about? Kevin, that's not me. You have to believe me. It's some crazy person who stole my pictures. I was babbling, the words tripping over each other in their hurry to get out. She messaged me on Instagram, he repeated, his voice dangerously level. A few minutes ago, she said some things. What things? What did she say? The panic was turning into a sickening dread. This was worse than the pictures. This was an invasion. He was quiet for a second. I could hear him take a long, slow breath, the way you do before you say something you know is going to change everything. She asked if I remembered our first real fight. The air turned to ice in my lungs. The one on the way to that cabin in Michigan, he continued, his voice lower now, almost a murmur. In the rainstorm, when we found that stray cat and you wanted to take it with us, and I said no because the cabin didn't allow pets. You cried for almost an hour. You said I was heartless. I couldn't speak. The memory was so sharp, so painfully specific, it was like he'd opened a door in my mind. We'd never spoken about that to anyone. Ever. It was one of those dumb, early relationship fights that becomes a secret, slightly embarrassing touchstone. We were 22. It was our first trip away together. I remembered the smell of the damp pine needles, the sound of the rain hammering on the roof of my old Honda, the way the stray cat had looked at us with its big, green eyes. It was our story, a stupid, private little piece of our history. How, Anna? Kevin's voice cracked, the coldness finally breaking, replaced by a raw, aching confusion. How did she know that? We've never told a single soul about that. Did you? Did you write it down somewhere? In a blog? An old email? No, of course not. Kevin, I don't know. Tears were streaming down my face now, hot and silent. I don't know how she knows. I swear to you, that was not me. Please, you have to believe me. She said she's been thinking a lot. That things have been hard. That maybe we need a break. The words hit me harder than a physical blow. A break. She was trying to break us up. This faceless, nameless monster was systematically dismantling my life, and now she had come for the very foundation of it. That's not me. I was almost screaming into the phone, my voice echoing in the small bathroom. Kevin, that's a lie. I would never say that. I love you. Why would you even listen to this? Because she knew about the cat, Anna, he yelled back, his voice finally exploding with all the hurt and confusion he'd been holding back. She knew, so you tell me what I'm supposed to think. You post this insane thing about being at work, but your friends think it's a joke. You're telling me someone has not only hacked your face onto pictures in Napa but has also somehow hacked our private memories? What is going on? I tried to explain. I told him about the account appearing, about the photo from the coffee shop, about the lobby video. I told him everything, my words a frantic, desperate torrent. But it sounded insane. Even as I was saying it, I could hear how it sounded. Like a paranoid fantasy, a bad movie plot, the kind of thing you tell a therapist, not your boyfriend. He listened. When I was done, there was just silence on the other end of the line. A heavy, damning silence. Kevin? I whispered, my throat raw. Please say something. He started, then stopped. He let out another long, shaky breath. I don't know what to say, Anna. I don't. It's too much. That picture, the comments from your friends, and now this. I feel like I don't know who I'm talking to anymore. You're talking to me, I sobbed. I'm right here, are you? The question was soft, but it cut me to the bone. I think I need some time. I need to think. No, Kevin, don't. Don't do this. We can figure this out together, I pleaded. Don't let her do this to us. I have to go, he said, his voice distant again. I'll call you later. He hung up. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I lowered the phone slowly, my arm feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I stared at the blank screen. He was gone. The one person I thought would stand by me, the one person who knew me better than anyone, was gone. He needed time. He needed to think, which was just a polite way of saying he didn't believe me. The thing about trust is that it isn't logical. It's a feeling. It's a leap of faith. And I had just watched him stand on the edge, look down, and decide not to jump. The imposter hadn't just stolen a memory, she had stolen his faith in me. And I had no idea how to get it back. I slid down the cool wall of the bathroom stall and just sat on the floor, my work skirt bunching up around me, my head in my hands. The world had shrunk to the size of this small, sterile box. I felt completely and utterly alone. My friends thought I was a flake. My boyfriend thought I was a liar, or crazy, or both. This person, this thing, it had successfully cut me off from everyone. It had put me on an island, and now it was setting the whole island on fire. How did she know? The question hammered in my head, a relentless rhythm. How did she know about the cat? It wasn't on social media. It wasn't in an email. It was a conversation, in a car, years ago. A new, colder fear began to seep in, pushing past the grief for my relationship. This wasn't just someone watching me from across the street anymore. This wasn't just Photoshop. This was deeper, intimate. It felt electronic. My messages, my cloud storage, my phone itself. The thought was so violating it made me physically sick. I scrambled up, my body moving on pure adrenaline. I burst out of the restroom, ignoring the strange look from a woman at the sink, and practically ran back to my desk. I grabbed my purse and my laptop, mumbled something to my confused deskmate about a family emergency, and fled the building. I couldn't be there. I couldn't be anywhere. The L train ride home was a blur of paranoid agony. I clutched my phone in my lap like it was a venomous snake I was afraid to drop. Had she put something on it? Was she listening right now? Watching through the camera? I turned the phone off completely, but it didn't help. The fear was already inside me. It felt like I had bugs crawling under my skin. When I got back to my apartment, the first thing I did was lock and bolt the door. I drew all the blinds, plunging the apartment into a gloomy twilight. Then the ritual began. It was frantic, desperate. I started with my phone. I went through every single app, checking permissions, deleting anything I hadn't used in months. Then, my laptop. I ran a virus scan. Nothing. But that meant nothing. The most dangerous threats are the ones you can't see. Then came the passwords. Every single one. My main email, my backup email, my bank, my credit cards, Amazon, Netflix, the electric company, every stupid, insignificant account I had ever created. I made them all new, a gibberish of letters, numbers, and symbols that I wrote down on a piece of paper like some Cold War spy. My fingers ached. My head throbbed. With every password I changed, the question echoed louder. How did she know about the cat? Maybe it was in a journal. I tore through my closet, pulling out old boxes. I found my college diaries and flipped through them, my heart pounding. Page after page of bad poetry and complaints about exams, but nothing about the trip to Michigan. I sat on the floor of my living room, surrounded by the debris of my own life, in the dim, claustrophobic light filtering through the blinds. The apartment was silent, too silent. The quiet that had once felt peaceful now felt predatory. It felt like the silence of being watched. I had been erased. My life, my relationships, my memories, they had been scooped out of me and twisted into a weapon to be used against me. I was a ghost in my own apartment. I had nothing left, no one to call, no one to turn to. I don't know how long I sat there. An hour, maybe two. The sun must have set, because the room grew darker. I didn't turn on a light. I just sat there, wrapped my arms around my knees, and cried. Not loud, hysterical sobs. Just a quiet, hopeless weeping for a life that, just a few days ago, had been mine. Eventually, the tears stopped. I was just empty, a hollowed-out shell. I picked up my phone, my thumb moving out of pure, mindless habit, and turned it on. The screen flared to life, painfully bright in the darkness. It connected to the Wi-Fi. And then it happened. A notification pinged, the sound unnaturally loud in the silent room. It wasn't a text. It wasn't an email. It was from Instagram, my real account. My blood turned to ice. My breathing stopped. The notification banner glowed on the screen, the words stark and clear against the black background. Anna Miller has tagged you in a photo. My thumb was dead weight. It hovered over the glowing notification, a millimeter of air separating me from what? For a whole minute, maybe longer, I just sat there in the dark, my phone the only source of light in the entire world, and I just stared at those words. Anna Miller has tagged you in a photo. It didn't make sense. Everything in my brain was a tangled mess of server locations, IP addresses, and the impossibly specific memory of a stray cat in the rain. This person was digital, and phantom, a string of code and stolen pictures that lived in the cloud. They couldn't tag me. They had their own account. The fake one. So what was this? My real account, my pictures, my tags. With a tremor that started in my fingertips and shot up my arm, I pressed down. The screen went white for a second as the app loaded. My heart hammered against my ribs, each beat a painful thud. Thud, thud, thud. It was the only sound in the silent apartment, a desperate drum solo in the suffocating quiet. And then the image resolved. I didn't gasp. I didn't scream. I think I just stopped breathing. All the air in my lungs turned to lead. It was my front door. Not a picture of a door that looked like mine. It was my front door. The 120 feet away from where I was sitting on the floor. I could see the tiny, almost invisible scratch near the doorknob from that time I fumbled with my keys and a bag of groceries. I could see the dark green welcome mat Kevin's mom had given us. The one with the cheerful yellow sunflowers that now looked grotesque, almost mocking. I could see the brass numbers, 7B, gleaming under the flat, sterile light of the apartment hallway. My hallway. The photo was taken straight on. Not from an angle, not from down the hall. It was taken by someone standing exactly where a visitor would stand. It was a clear, high-resolution picture. It had been taken seconds ago, posted seconds ago. My eyes flicked down to the caption. 4 words and an emoji. Home at last. Smile. The smiley face was the worst part. The casual, cheerful, psychopathic little yellow circle. It was a punch in the gut. All the digital paranoia, the fear of hackers and stolen data, it all evaporated in an instant, replaced by something far more primal. Something with blood and bone and breath. This wasn't a hacker in another country. This wasn't some bored kid in a basement. This person was outside my door. Right now. The phone slipped from my numb fingers and clattered onto the hardwood floor. I didn't even flinch. My body was completely rigid, a statue of ice and terror. My gaze was locked on my own front door, the real one, the solid slab of wood and steel that was supposed to be the one thing separating me from the world. My safe space, my fortress. It didn't feel safe anymore. It felt like a tomb. I put my hands over my mouth to stifle a sound I didn't know I was about to make. My mind was a blank, white static. All the questions. How did she know about the cat? How did she Photoshop the pictures? How did she get into my messages? They were all meaningless now. They were trivial details from a different lifetime, a lifetime that ended the moment I saw that photo. There was only one question now, one terrible, all-consuming reality. She was here. I tried to force myself to move, to get up, to do something, call 911, scream, run to the kitchen and grab a knife. But I couldn't. My limbs were disconnected from my brain. I was welded to the floor, my eyes wide in the gloom, staring at the door. Waiting. The silence in the apartment became a physical presence. It pressed in on my eardrums. I could hear the faint, low hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. The gentle whoosh of air through the central heating vents. The distant, muted sound of traffic from the street 7 floors below. Normal sounds. The sounds of home. But they were all wrong. They were a cheap soundtrack laid over a scene of absolute horror. Listening. I was listening for something else. A footstep. A cough. A shuffle in the hallway. But there was nothing. Just the thick, heavy silence. Maybe she left. Maybe she just took the picture and left. A final mind game. A final, terrifying message to let me know she could get to me whenever she wanted. The thought offered a sliver of hope, a tiny pinprick of light in the overwhelming darkness. She posted the picture and walked away. She's gone. Latch cash. The sound was so small, I thought I'd imagined it. A tiny, sharp, metallic noise. It cut through the hum of the fridge like a razor blade. It came from the front door. I froze, every muscle in my body pulling taut. My breath hitched in my throat. I strained my ears, begging my own mind to tell me it was the building settling, or a neighbor next door. Anything but what I knew it was. Scrape, click. This time it was clearer. The unmistakable sound of metal sliding against metal. The sound of a key being inserted into a lock. My lock. My blood went cold. Pure, liquid nitrogen in my veins. My heart, which had been pounding, seemed to stop altogether. A key. She had a key. How did she have a key? I had the only two. One on my keychain, right here in my purse. The other in a dish in my parents' house 100 miles away. There were no other keys. It wasn't possible, but the sound was real. My stare was fixed on the doorknob. The simple, polished brass knob I turned every single day without a thought. It was just an object. A piece of hardware, but now it was the focal point of all the fear in the universe. It was an omen. I watched it, unblinking, pleading with it. Don't move. Please, God, don't move. For a few seconds that stretched into an eternity, nothing happened. The silence returned, heavier and more menacing than before. The sound must have been my imagination. A power surge of paranoia. I was losing my mind, that's all. Kevin was right. My friends were right. I was crazy. This was all just a breakdown. And then, it moved. It was almost imperceptible at first. A tiny, stuttering tremor. A slight vibration. Then, as if a hand on the other side were taking a firm, deliberate grip, the brass knob began to rotate. Slowly. So slowly. It wasn't a panicked jiggle. It wasn't a frantic twist. It was a smooth, confident, unhurried turn. The movement of someone who knew they had the right key. The movement of someone who belonged there. I could see the faint light from the hallway glinting off the turning metal. My mind detached. It was like I was watching a movie. This wasn't happening to me. It couldn't be. This was something you see on a screen, something you turn off when it gets too scary. But I couldn't turn this off. The knob turned further, a quarter of the way. Halfway, my lungs were burning, screaming for air, but I couldn't exhale. Any sound, any movement would be my death sentence. All I could do was watch as this stranger, this monster, this smiling emoji thing, calmly and quietly unlocked my front door from the outside. The knob stopped turning. It had gone as far as it could go. And then I heard the last sound I ever wanted to hear. Click, the soft, final sound of the latch disengaging from the doorframe. The mechanism that was supposed to keep me safe had just been defeated. The battle was over. There was nothing left between us but a few inches of wood. And it was about to open. For a second, there was nothing. Just the click, hanging in the air like a puff of smoke. My brain, which had shut down completely, rebooted with a single, brutal command: run. But you don't run, not when the threat is a footstep away. You don't scream, you don't make a sound. Any noise is a signpost pointing straight to your throat. So I didn't run, I moved. It was the weirdest thing. It felt like I was watching someone else control my body. My limbs, which had been frozen solid, unlocked. My legs bent under me. I rose from the floor without a single creak of my joints, like a predator myself. My breath was trapped in my chest, a balloon ready to pop, but I held it. I held it tight. My phone was on the floor, its screen dark. I left it, one step back, then another. My bare feet were silent on the cold hardwood. My eyes were still glued to the front door. I could hear it now, a faint, almost imperceptible groan of wood as it began to swing inward, opening into the darkness of my apartment. Into my tomb. I didn't wait to see who, or what, was on the other side. I turned my back to the monster, and I fled. Not toward the kitchen, not to a closet. There was only one way out. The sliding glass door to the balcony. My living room isn't that big. It was maybe 15 feet from where I was to the balcony. It was the longest 15 feet of my life. Every step was a gamble. I was sure with each footfall that a hand would clamp down on my shoulder, that I'd feel hot breath on my neck. I could feel the air in the room shift as the front door opened wider, letting in the dead, sterile light of the hallway and whatever was standing in it. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My hand found the cheap, vertical plastic lock on the sliding door. My fingers were clumsy, slick with a sweat that had appeared from nowhere. For a horrifying second, I fumbled with it. Click it up, just click it up, Anna, my brain screamed. I pushed. It didn't move. My heart seized. She'd somehow broken this too. This was it. This was the end. I pushed again, with all the panicked strength I had. It gave way with a loud snap that sounded like a gunshot in the silent apartment. I didn't care about the noise anymore. I yanked the heavy glass door open just enough to slip through, the cold night air hitting my face like a slap. I was outside, on my tiny 7th floor balcony. I immediately spun around and slammed the door shut. The sound echoed. I saw the lock, the small metal latch you're supposed to flip down. My hand was shaking so violently I couldn't get a grip. I saw movement inside my apartment. A shadow detaching from the deeper shadows by the front door, moving with a calm, unhurried gait toward the living room. Toward me. I finally managed to get my thumb on the latch and jammed it down. Click. Locked. I was safe. For about 3 seconds, the shadow resolved into a person. A woman. I couldn't see her face in the gloom, just a silhouette against the faint light from the hallway. And she was standing there, in the middle of my living room, just looking at me through the glass. Her head was tilted, like she was curious. Puzzled, even, as if she couldn't understand why the mouse had run. This wasn't part of the game. And then, I found my voice. It didn't start as a scream. It was more like a gasp, a wretched, tearing sound from deep in my lungs. But it grew. I opened my mouth and every bit of terror, every bit of paranoia from the last few weeks, it all came roaring out. I screamed. I hammered my fists against the glass of the door, not to break it, but because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. Help! Somebody help me! She's in my apartment! Help! My voice was raw, cracking. I screamed until my throat felt like it was shredding. The woman inside didn't flinch. She just took a slow step toward the balcony door and placed her hand on the handle. She tried to slide it. It held. She didn't rattle it. She just tested it, calmly. A problem to be solved. Hey, up there, are you all right? The voice came from below. A man's voice. I leaned over the railing, my heart leaping. A floor down, on the balcony directly under mine, Mr. Henderson, the old guy from 6B, was staring up at me, his face a mixture of confusion and alarm. "Call 911, I shrieked, pointing frantically back at my living room. "There's someone in my apartment." She broke in. Mr. Henderson's eyes widened. He looked past me, at the glass door. I risked a glance back. The woman was now fiddling with the lock, her fingers probing the mechanism, trying to open it from the inside. I saw the glint of something dark in her hand. A screwdriver? A lockpick? On it, Mr. Henderson yelled, disappearing back inside his apartment. I could hear his muffled voice, urgent and loud. "Yes, 720 Elm Street, apartment 7B. A break-in. A woman is trapped on her balcony." The figure inside my apartment froze. Her head snapped up. She must have heard him. For the first time, I saw a flicker of something other than calm confidence. Panic. The game was over. The audience had arrived. She didn't even look at me again. She turned and sprinted back through my living room. I heard a crash, my favorite lamp, probably, and then the sound of my front door, which was still open, being flung wide. Then, silence. Utter, complete silence inside my home. I stayed out there on the balcony, shivering in the cold, for a long, long time. I only moved when I heard the heavy, running footsteps of security guards in the hallway, and the authoritative slam of them entering my apartment. Even then, when a kind-faced guard slid the balcony door open and told me it was okay, that I was safe, I couldn't stop shaking. She was gone, vanished down the fire escape at the end of the hall before anyone could get a clear look at her. The police found the key she'd used. It was sitting on my welcome mat, a perfect, freshly cut copy of my house key. They never figured out how she made it. They had no fingerprints, no witnesses who saw her face, nothing. To them, it was a ghost story, a botched robbery, maybe an ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend gone crazy. They took my statement, patted me on the shoulder, and told me to get new locks. The next day, I packed a single bag and moved back in with my parents, 200 miles away. I deleted my Instagram, my Facebook, every last trace of my online life. My apartment, my fortress, was just a place full of things I never wanted to see again. Kevin tried to call, but what could I say? He'd never believe me. My friends texted, confused. I ignored them all. How could I explain that the person they thought I was, the one going to resorts and having fun, was the same person who had just tried to trap me in my own home? It was impossible. My old life was a crime scene, and I was the only one who knew it. It's been 6 weeks. Life is quiet. The fear is still there, of course. It's a low hum in the back of my mind, a constant companion. Every time the doorbell rings, I jump. Every unfamiliar car that parks on the street feels like a threat. But being in my childhood home, surrounded by the cluttered safety of my parents' life, it helped. It felt like I was in a different world, a world the smiling emoji thing couldn't touch. Today, my mom brought down a dusty cardboard box from the attic. "Some of your old school stuff, sweetie," she said. "Thought you might want to go through it." I spent the afternoon sitting on my old bedroom floor, surrounded by things I hadn't thought about in over a decade. Yearbooks, old report cards, a dried-up corsage from a dance. Tucked at the bottom was a thin, plastic photo album. The cover had a cheesy, faded picture of a log cabin and the words, "Camp Whispering Pines, Summer 2008. I smiled, a real, genuine smile. I was 14. That was a good summer. All mosquito bites, canoe races, and ghost stories around a campfire that weren't real. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of my old self. I opened the album, the plastic pages crinkling. There I was, with my braces and terrible bangs. There was Jessica and Sarah, my best friends at the time. There was a blurry picture of the boys' cabin. I flipped a page, and there it was, the big group photo, taken on the last day. All 50 of us, squinting in the sun, arms draped over each other. I scanned the faces, picking out people I remembered, and then my eyes stopped. In the back row, half hidden behind a taller boy, was a girl. I couldn't remember her name. She was one of those quiet kids who just sort of existed in the background. Plain brown hair, nondescript clothes. She wasn't looking at the camera. All the other kids were smiling, or making funny faces for the photographer. She was looking directly at me. It wasn't a friendly look. It wasn't a vacant stare. It was something else, an intense, focused gaze that cut through the 15 years since that photo was taken. It was a look of such profound, chilling longing. It was the look of someone staring through a shop window at something they desperately wanted, something they believed they deserved to have. It was a look of pure, unadulterated envy. A cold dread, so familiar and so much worse than before, washed over me. My hands started to tremble again. I don't know why, but I felt this compulsive urge to take the picture out. I carefully slid it from its plastic sleeve. The photo paper was thick and yellowed at the edges. I turned it over. There, on the back, written in the neat, careful cursive of a teenage girl, were 7 words. The ink had faded to a rusty brown, but the message was perfectly clear. It had been there for a decade and a half, waiting. One day, I'll be you.